Welcome to Voyage Daily Tech, the most important news personalized for you every day, supported by Voyage.com.
Today we're sharing 5 stories. We'll start with why Microsoft, after a $13 billion investment, now officially lists its partner OpenAI as a competitor, sparking a very public power struggle. Then we'll look at how an AI stethoscope proved 3.5 times more effective at spotting a major stroke risk in a massive 12,000 patient study. After that, a story from the gaming world. Hideo Kojima's old publisher, Konami, is remaking his masterpiece, Metal Gear Solid, a decade after firing him over its $80 million budget. We'll also cover the UK's high-tech war against the IPS typographus Beetle, using drones and even nuclear fallout models to save its £2.9 billion timber industry. And finally, the Miss England pageant's new AI avatar round and why only 3 of 32 contestants dared to compete with a digital twin for contracts. The most unexpected news in the tech world today has to be this. 2 of the biggest names in tech, one that poured billions into the other, are now officially going head-to-head. We're talking about Microsoft and OpenAI. Microsoft is the lead investor, having poured roughly $13 billion into the AI company. But in its latest annual filing, Microsoft formally listed OpenAI as a competitor. So what's driving this? A massive power shift. OpenAI, once a small research lab, is now on an aggressive global push to sell its technology directly to large corporations. To do this, its enterprise go-to-market team has exploded from just 50 people to over 700 in only 18 months. Now, get this. Behind that explosive growth isn't a traditional sales team. OpenAI is using what's called an engineer-led sales model. Instead of slick salespeople, they embed their own engineers directly with clients to build custom AI solutions. This builds incredibly deep relationships and has proven wildly successful. Just look at their deal with PwC, which is now rolling out ChatGPT Enterprise to over 100,000 of its employees in the US and UK. They're not just selling software, they're selling embedded expertise. They're opening offices from Brazil to Japan, chasing the same lucrative deals as their biggest backer. However, if you zoom out, you'll see another layer of complexity at play. Expanding globally isn't just about setting up a sales office. There are massive technical and cultural hurdles. You see, most of these powerful AI models were trained on data that is overwhelmingly English and reflects Western culture. This creates an algorithmic monoculture, basically, an AI with serious blind spots. For example, one study showed that Western-built AI performed poorly on questions about traditional Chinese medicine compared to models built in China. So for OpenAI to succeed in places like Japan and Brazil, they have to overcome these built-in biases to be truly useful. This is a far cry from OpenAI's early days. CEO Sam Altman recently admitted that when they started, we had no idea we were going to make a chatbot that a lot of people were going to talk to. That shift from a small secret research lab to a global enterprise vendor creates huge internal stress. You go from a culture of pure discovery to one that needs to provide roadmaps and customer support. It's a fundamental identity crisis that can make it hard to keep the very research talent that made you successful. Now, that chatbot, ChatGPT, has over 700 million weekly active users, and the company is leveraging that fame to go corporate. So what's the official line? OpenAI's COO, Brad Lightcap, says the opportunity space is so gigantic that it's impossible not to bump into everyone else. But the facts on the ground tell a different story. Microsoft is now publicly testing its own homegrown AI model called MAI-1 Preview, a potential direct challenger to OpenAI's technology. This decision brings both benefits and comes with inherent risks for corporate customers. Do you go directly with OpenAI to get the absolute latest models the second they are released? Or do you go with Microsoft's Azure OpenAI service, which offers better security, compliance with rules like HIPAA, and seamless integration with products your company already uses? It's a classic battle, speed versus security. And behind closed doors, reports suggest the 2 companies are renegotiating the very terms of their partnership. The details leaking out indicate OpenAI wants to slash the share of its revenue that goes to Microsoft. This isn't just a small tweak, it's a clear signal that OpenAI is trying to gain more independence and financial power. This all started as a big secret in a small lab, as Sam Altman put it. Now that secret is out and it's turned into a multi-billion-dollar battlefield. With a foundational partnership turning into a public rivalry, the question isn't just who will win, but can this alliance even survive? We were just talking about the high-stakes corporate battle in AI, but now let's shift to how this technology is creating breakthroughs in a completely different field. Medicine, a medical tool from 1816, just got an AI upgrade, and it's now spotting a silent condition that increases stroke risk 3.5 times more effectively. That's right. Researchers have taken the humble stethoscope and replaced its classic chest piece with a device the size of a playing card. It doesn't just listen, it hears subtle differences in your heartbeat that the human ear physically cannot detect. After all, the traditional art of listening to the body, known as auscultation, is incredibly difficult. It takes years for a doctor to distinguish a healthy heartbeat from one with a dangerous murmur. This new device bypasses those physical limits entirely. If that was just the appetizer, the main course is just being served. In a massive study involving over 12,000 patients, these AI stethoscopes from Eko Health didn't just find those abnormal heartbeats. They were also 3 times more likely to detect heart failure and almost twice as likely to find heart valve disease within a year. The technology is astonishing. The device takes an ECG and instantly sends the information to the cloud for analysis. But naturally, when you're talking about sending the literal rhythm of your heart to a server, it raises huge questions about privacy. The system has to be compliant with strict regulations like HIPAA, but there are real concerns about this data being used for secondary purposes, like insurance profiling, without explicit consent. Now, the quality of that cloud analysis depends entirely on the data it was trained on. What's critical to understand here is that research shows AI models can develop biases if their training data isn't diverse. For example, some AI models are less accurate for women or ethnic minorities because these groups were underrepresented. This could mean the tool works brilliantly for one group, but fails another, making health disparities even worse. According to one consultant cardiologist, this is a real game changer because so often these conditions are only diagnosed at an advanced stage. However, the situation presents a fascinating duality. On one side, you have this incredible potential for early diagnosis. On the other, it exposes real risks for the doctors themselves. One is the black box problem. The AI might flag an issue, but it doesn't always explain why. This creates a massive legal and ethical grey area. If a doctor follows the AI's advice and it's wrong, who is liable? But what if they ignore a correct diagnosis? And then there's the long-term risk of de-skilling physicians. If doctors come to rely on AI to interpret heart sounds, will they lose that fundamental skill themselves? The challenge will be to train doctors to be critical partners with AI, not just passive operators. This isn't just a lab experiment. After the huge study in London, there are already plans to introduce these new stethoscopes to more GP practices across the UK. It all begs the question, what happens when a life-altering diagnosis takes mere seconds in a doctor's office instead of during an emergency room crisis? Speaking of game changers, let's turn to the world of actual video games, where a legendary creator is watching his own masterpiece get remade by the company that fired him. Imagine creating a masterpiece, winning a top award for it, and then being banned by your own company from going on stage to accept it. That's exactly what happened to Hideo Kojima, the creator of the Metal Gear Solid series, a franchise that has sold over 60 million copies. The split with publisher Konami in 2015 was one of gaming's most acrimonious divorces. The suspected reason? The spiraling cost of Kojima's last game, estimated at over $80 million, and that $80 million, which seemed huge back then, barely scratches the surface of the real issue. The cost to make these big blockbuster or AAA games has been doubling with each new console generation. Former PlayStation executive Sean Layden said costs were hitting $150 million during the PS4 era and could be as high as $400 million for PS5 games. He called the trend outright not sustainable. This is the core tension of the industry, the visionary creator versus the profit-driven corporation. The fallout was so severe, Konami reportedly removed his studio's name from promotional materials. After the game shipped, Kojima was gone. For years, Konami shifted its strategy away from big console games, focusing instead on mobile titles and pachinko machines. This wasn't just a random pivot. It was a calculated business strategy. In 2015, Konami's president literally said, "Mobile is where the future of gaming lies." And for a while, He was right. They focused on these more profitable sectors, but abandoning their core fans created a huge void. This new remake strategy is what we might call franchise necromancy, resurrecting a dormant series to cash in on nostalgia, which is a much safer bet than funding a new expensive idea. Meanwhile, Kojima started a new studio and signed a deal with Sony to create the hit Death Stranding. But now, a decade later, comes the ultimate plot twist. Konami is back, releasing a full remake of Metal Gear Solid 3, one of Kojima's most celebrated works, and they are doing it without him. The move taps into a hugely lucrative trend of remaking classic games. Early reports call the remake truly a faithful recreation, even keeping the original voice performances, with one expert noting that Kojima's directorial genes are being dominantly expressed. Here's where it gets interesting though. What does it even mean for a game to have a creator's genes? It challenges the whole idea of a single auteur or genius director. If a new team can successfully replicate a director's unique style, does that prove the vision can be turned into a formula? Or does it actually shine a light on the incredible work of the original development team who first helped bring that vision to life? The remake success might be a testament not just to Kojima, but to the entire original team. It seems Kojima's wish to have others continue the series has become a reality, just not in the way anyone expected. So, what does the creator himself think? Will the man who has pushed out the door ever play the remake of his own classic? When asked, Hideo Kojima reportedly just laughed off the suggestion. From a war of egos in the gaming world, we now turn to a literal war against a tiny, destructive invader. The UK's public enemy number one isn't arriving by boat or by plane, it's arriving on the wind. A beetle smaller than your fingernail, the Ips typographus, was thought to be contained by checking imported wood at ports. But then officials made a shocking discovery. The beetles were being blown straight over the English Channel from Europe. This tiny invader is now threatening the UK's entire £2.9 billion timber industry. An expert from Forest Research describes how their populations can explode into the millions, even billions, overwhelming a tree's defences until it dies. In Norway, this same beetle has already wiped out 100 million cubic metres of spruce. Now, the UK is fighting back with an arsenal that sounds like something out of a military operation. Drones survey hundreds of hectares from the sky. On the ground, sniffer dogs are being trained to hunt for the beetles by smelling their chemical signals and even their insect poo. And believe it or not, this scent-based detection is on the verge of a major technological leap. Researchers are developing electronic noses that can detect the specific smell fingerprints that plants release when under attack. For instance, the USDA has already built a device that can sniff out whitefly infestations on tomato plants. This could lead to a network of automated sensors giving an even earlier warning. They're even using AI-powered cameras on bug traps, trained with over 20,000 images to identify the beetle in real time. But putting a smart camera in a remote off-grid forest trap is a massive technical challenge. The solution is something called Edge AI. Instead of sending images to the cloud, they use ultra-lightweight AI models that run on tiny, low-power microcontrollers right there on the trap. That's how this high-tech defense becomes possible in the real world. This is where the situation takes a more complex turn. To predict where these airborne invaders will land next, scientists have adapted a model originally designed to track nuclear fallout, using it to model how far the beetles will travel on the wind. This is a perfect example of dual-use technology, where tools designed for one type of disaster are being brilliantly repurposed to fight ecological crises. A model from the Finnish Meteorological Institute, for instance, has been successfully used to forecast the migration of pest insects, with weather radar confirming its predictions. This high-tech war is showing results. The UK has officially become the first country to eradicate the beetle from its controlled zones. Now, that word eradicate needs a little context. Since the threat is continuous, what this really means is successful suppression, eliminating the pest from a specific managed area. True permanent eradication is almost impossible when the beetle can simply be blown back over the channel. The reality is, this is a perpetual defense, a constant battle to keep the population below damaging levels, which carries a significant ongoing cost. But the fight is far from over. Climate change is stressing trees and boosting beetle populations across Europe, increasing the risk of new invasions every year. It all makes you wonder, as the enemy gets stronger and continues to ride the wind, how long can the UK hold the line? We were just talking about using AI to defend against a physical threat, but our final story looks at how AI is being seen as a threat itself in the world of beauty pageants. The Miss England pageant just launched a new competition round where the contestants are literally replaced by AI avatars of themselves. It's not about who looks the best or has the most talent. The winner is the model whose digital clone secures the most commercial contracts. From a business perspective, the pageant is offering a 10% commission on any work the AI avatar gets, which is a huge undercut on the 20% to 30% that traditional modelling agencies charge. But here's the bombshell. Out of 32 semi-finalists, only 3 dared to enter. 2 contestants even signed up and then dropped out, with one reportedly being warned by friends and family about the dangers of AI. And those fears aren't just paranoia. When a model licenses their likeness, they're essentially creating a digital ghost. And experts warn this digital twin is incredibly vulnerable. What happens if the company holding your data gets hacked or goes bankrupt? You could lose control over your own face forever, with your avatar being used in ways you never agreed to. The backlash from inside the modeling world was immediate. One model, Harriet Webster, called the AI clones dangerous and scary, stating it erases real people. Another semi-finalist who quit explained, at the heart of pageantry is authenticity. Interestingly enough, she's right to focus on authenticity. While brands love the control AI gives them, research shows that posts from human influencers get significantly more engagement, more likes, more comments than posts from AI influencers. Over half of younger consumers say they are turned off by AI influencers, which creates a huge risk for brands that rely on building genuine trust. But the pageant director, Angie Beasley, defends the move, calling it part of the competition's progressive evolution. And the founder of an AI company featured in Vogue has a stark message for the critics. We could never stop progress. We're going to have to accept it at some point. What really brought this to a head, though, are the implications for the entire industry. This technology could have a significant detriment to other workers, from makeup artists and hairstylists to camera crews. We're already seeing this happen. I can generate hyper-realistic makeup looks, create any background imaginable, and even stage an entire digital photo shoot, sidelining photographers and camera crews. So is this progress or peril? One contestant, a physics graduate, believes her avatar will help her adapt, but the core conflict is undeniable. Once an avatar is created, a business can use it to promote their brand in multiple languages across unlimited campaigns without ever needing to hire another human worker again. And there's a final huge legal grey area here. Under current US law, a piece of content must have significant human authorship to be protected by copyright. So if an AI just generates an ad using the avatar, who owns it? It might not be the company. The very thing that makes these avatars attractive, their autonomy, could become a major legal headache.
That's it for today on Voyage Daily Tech. Follow, share, and stay tuned for daily updates coming your way tomorrow.